some technical difficulties. I wasn't sure if the mic was going to work, the video was going to work, but it is okay. Welcome everyone to PLM 4.0. I'm Andrew Sparrow. I'm a product lifecycle enthusiast, probably not very technical, as I just proved a few minutes ago off stage, because frankly, PLM, I can't see anything more important in today's business world that delivers smarter, more personalized products, care of a world-class product lifecycle solution.
And I'm Brian Spellman. I've been helping companies implement PLM systems, both internally and on the consulting side. And I've definitely seen more than my fair share of successes and nightmares.
So in this show, we're talking all things product lifecycle, from a traditional product lifecycle management issues of EBOM, MBOM, change, configuration management, right through to
the embedding of Industry 4.0 technologies, the data thread, the digital continuity, the digital twin, intelligent products, integrated factories, smart service, basically all of those PLM buzzwords you hear on the internet. Yeah, that's it.
That'll do it. And this week, as you have seen, we are talking about a place very close to my heart. Many, many years ago, my dad used to take me with him on regular business trips to Sweden, of all places, where he worked for the Stora Group, big company over in Sweden, top 4, I think it was. And I fell in love with the people, the family culture, the crayfish, and that blonde from ABBA. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah, yes. This week we're going to go into PLM 4.0 in Scandinavia. Consistently over the last few years, the top 50 innovative countries list has included 3 countries from the Nordics in the top 10. We had Sweden as 2nd, Finland as 7th, and Denmark as 8th. And this week's guest is one of the most experienced PLM experts in the region.
And that's Håkan Theobald, who happens to be our lead for the XDI Scandinavia region. I've known him for a good period of time now, and we've enjoyed many, many hours together in Stockholm in the Dassault System offices way back when we were working there. We share a common background. Håkan, like I, was a little bit lazy at school, so lazy that his father pulled him out, threw him into an Ericsson factory, while my father threw me into a warehouse within the Stora Group. He quickly became bored, that's Håkan, by the way, as day in, day out, he merely monitored the production line while reloading and loading a soldering machine. He got pissed off because he knew his dad could given him a far more senior role, but it was his father's way of punishing him to make sure that he studied hard and gathered knowledge. Didn't work for me, but it clearly worked for Håkan.
Yeah, Håkan eventually started in the product lifecycle business in 1988 and was one of the first to lay hands on Industry 4.0 technologies. Of the 34 years in PLM, 23 of those years have been on the software vendor side, both with Siemens and Dassault, and he has worked on some of the region's largest PLM programs.
So enough of an intro for Håkan, who's probably suitably embarrassed now. Let's get the show on the road. Ready, set, let's go.
Transforming ideas into reality can be daunting, especially if you're trying to do everything yourself or using a variety of tools. But what if you had a team working together, exchanging ideas and sharing tasks? You promote innovative thinking and discover new solutions, getting you better results faster.
Håkan.
Hello.
Good morning. Afternoon, I'm sorry. Afternoon. Good morning for me.
In my case, afternoon. What the introduction, guys. You make me little
you're welcome.
Little red.
You're welcome.
Yeah, nothing to live up to or anything here.
That looks like probably that looks like how Stockholm probably is right now. Am I right? Is it beautiful and long sunny days?
Yes, even more sunny than I have behind me. It's really warm here now in Stockholm, and we have great weather. So we have to make this fast so I can go out.
Well, yeah, this show is going to be a little different as we're looking at the greatest challenges in implementing a world-class product lifecycle solution. In the intro a little while ago, I mentioned that I've seen a few nightmares, and I know that you, Håkan, have seen some too. So this show, we're going to look at the top 7 nightmares of PLM and what you have seen in your region and explore the, say, solutions and maybe ways to avoid some of these challenges.
Okay.
We're going to be counting down from number 7 right the way down to the top number 1. So please, everyone, to the right of the screen, you're going to see an opportunity to throw in your comments, your thoughts, and your questions, and see if you agree or disagree. Håkan, are you ready? Get the show on the road?
The best I can.
Sounds good. Sounds good. All righty. So let's pull up number 7. Lack of strategy. The stakeholders for the projects don't have common views on project goals as deliverables. What do you think, Håkan?
If I start here a little, what I've seen in some projects and programs in Nordic here is that in some cases they are not setting a strategy who is aligned with the company's overall goals. I'm talking many years forward, the vision where the company wants to go. And if you haven't set that, you get a risk by the stakeholders that you get a misalignment over time. That's actually natural. So actually missing or anchoring the strategy and value roadmap, that I've seen. And then I got seen this affecting, like you said, you get a misalignment on the stakeholders from the project.
I mean, it sounds like something that we've all seen happen in pretty much any sort of project. If the stakeholders don't really have a view of what's happening, it's going to make your project difficult. But especially as you're talking about and doing this within the PLM world, what are ways that companies can try to make sure that they avoid this in the PLM implementation?
I think what I said actually introduced little, and I think it's also the solution is to set early before you start the PLM program, setting up the project. You actually get together you don't really know them, but the potential stakeholders, and actually create a joint strategy, what you want to increase and what you want to achieve with the program against the customers' visions and goals in their own business. And when you have done that, you need to anchor that and get the commitment on that. And then you can go to the next step and actually setting up the project and running it. So I think this is where it's easy to miss. And I understand that too, because in the early days, you are in a position you don't know also as a vendor if you've chosen. So you get a little harder there to get closer to the customer. I think this is very critical. And as we have it as 7 here, the first one, but I think it's really challenging to get in place. So that's why I think I have seen that. And I've seen also this with doing progress, getting better here in Nordic doing this, but I think it's still a big challenge.
So you'd say that that lack of strategy with the stakeholders not having the common view, is some of that due to them not all really understanding what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, you're spot on actually. So it's a PLM is, as you know, a lot of engineering driven task in it, and if you're C-level or upper level, it's hard to understand all these details. Yes, you're correct, totally correct. But that's why I want to repeat that. That's why I think it's very important to set a value roadmap, not what you actually deliver in solutions. What values should you get every year? And that is the numbers who is speaking for these people. So I think this is critical. So when I say roadmap, I mean value roadmap, not a technical roadmap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that brings us right into... sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
Do you think we've got better at this, Håkan? I mean, certainly... You look back at the ERP waves of the late 90s, early 2000s, they were very good at showing an ROI to the C-suite. And let's be honest, the C-suite isn't listening unless you can show an ROI.
Yeah,
we weren't too good at that in the early days. Do you think we've got better at that now to get their attention?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So to be honest, I think so. When I started, talking long history now, we didn't do it at all. And 15 years and something back then, it started to be there. But as you said, there were no much listening to that. That was more sales talk. And now it's quite mature and we know how to do it. And we actually, if you look on the vendors and there are business development organizations supporting to make this happen. So yeah, I think so. But the other side, I think we come back to this. It's also that PLM is harder to get attention to business cases than other, more closer to financial projects. It's harder to get attention from the other side too. So, I think to answer your question, sorry, I talk a lot now, but yes, we are getting better to that.
Good. All righty.
Speaking of those
Let's
business
jump
cases,
in. So let's jump into number 6, which is lack of strategy. Once again, deliverables are not connected and prioritized against the business, a business case. What do you think?
Here, first I want to state, to make it clear, I think in the past, say 5-10 years, haven't counted on that, many years back, it's always business cases defined in all program and projects. Yeah, in Nordics at least, it's mandatory. That you don't run or invest anything if you don't have a business case. So that's for sure there and well settled. I have to say it. Okay, you were touching it already under the quality, but we leave that in this discussion. But then we get the challenge because this is normally done by other people on both sides. Management on the buyer side, mostly involved in this. Of course, the involved stakeholders on their side too, experts. But on the vendor side, it's more business development. On the sales side, also normally doing this. And then you get a handover to deliver the solution. And that's other people who are engaged. And this handover and getting the scoping in the business case drop down to the deliverables, that's missing quite often actually. And it's hard also have to respect it because in the project you focus more on operation and get the things in place and get the users on board, and so it's not so much touching the values. I think it's super critical to get that better in place because actually the customer bought something and expected some value from the solution, and of course then the project must be driven by that. So this is a very good point actually.
Yeah.
So are you seeing companies start down this path without really knowing what they're getting into? You know, maybe they had the cloud promised to them or the world promised to them in sales and don't really fully understand what they're grasping and what they're doing here?
Yeah, that's a part of the challenge. And I think here you have a part of the solution, if I can drive over to that. I think by using, and I know bigger vendors are using this today already, using best practices in defining the business case, using the existing industry best practice, each vendor had that, and also have the same best practice when you're setting up and doing the deliverable. Then you connect this to, I should say, different connection of lines, strategy, operational, and tactical. You can connect that by reusing these best practices. I think this is a brilliant way to do it, and I've seen that working really good. Then I have to say, I can say it quickly also, that is many companies in sales phase always talking, we have an industry best practice, you just install it after the box. This is not what I mean. Use the best practice in the workshops to understand and anchor the business case and use it also when you define this project. That's what I try to say.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Håkan. You did mention something earlier, which was, showing that ROI and PLM is difficult. I do want to come back to that a little later because nothing good in this world is easy. So we'll come back to that a little later, if I may.
Yeah.
Let's look at number 5. Number 5, technology. Not using new digital capabilities as cloud-based services, modular architecture, and an agile approach. What do you think?
And then before I comment how I read this one, you took it away now, but I read it using the latest technology in how to deliver and setting up the projects and program. That's how I read this comment. Because I see it, I can say it also directly, I see the maturity of the solution from different vendors is very good. As to the quality and how it's working, that's not the problem today. It's more how you're setting it up where you get the challenges. So I think then what I'm addressing here when I read this is it's very important in the project or program to use the latest technology to get the flexibility when you're setting up and defining the solution. And there you have different tools. Some cases it doesn't work in some. So for instance, you had their cloud-based services could be one part. Otherwise, is having more flexible architecture, setting up and have independent possibility to define the different areas of solution. This type of things, that's where you can aim and do much better. And also in the end, perhaps I should mention, setting up an anchor so you have a solution in place who have a low cost of ownership, which you easily can update. Easy is wrong word. Cheap as possible to update, to maintain. This I think is also very critical to have into this, and use them tools who can handle that and do that, not avoiding manual work. That's my on just come up now in my head here, Andrew, on that one.
So you're saying that all these tools that have been developed have evolved to a point where, I mean, they're a lot better, even a lot more complicated, but they're more easy in some cases too to be able to use. But you have to keep in mind your industry specific needs with this. We know, for example, aerospace, FAA requirements and all of that are different than what's happening in automotive or different than what's happening in other industries. And so just as, I guess, a caution, and want to get your thoughts on this too, but how do you see these cloud-based services fitting in with the facts of the different industries that PLM is being used in?
Yeah, I think you good point. I missed that. So actually, you can use cloud, and if due to the type of industry and how each solution should be used, it's not always the way forward. I think that's what you're looking for, Brian. So I think I totally agree on that. Again, you need to have the solution to fit the needs in that type of industry. And but what I meant with maturity, I'm old in this school. When I started, you don't even have you were worried when you installed anything, nothing worked more or less, and you have to fix everything. And now it works very well. Actually, the solution, it's more talking about how to tune the solution and actually setting it up so it fits perfect for the customer. So I think it's a totally different life just now than in the past. When I was touching the technology, you were a bits and byte guy more or less. Today you configure setting up the solution.
So you're
I'm
saying
a
the
little
problem now is,
generalizing, but that's
oh yeah, you're saying the problem now is less with, is the technology going to work, and more with, are we using the technology correctly?
Yes, exactly.
Just one thing that was mentioned in one of the problems was what I think is just an overused term these days, which is agile.
I avoid to say that.
It's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
Yes.
In isolation, as a culture, it can be a good thing. In isolation, not as a culture, it can be a bad thing because it can be lots of people running around crazily, sprints, etc. I mean, what's your view on agile as a solution?
Yes, I think also based on own experience, if you look on the term agile, there are approaches well documented, and where I've seen it working well is a variant of that for running the PLM programs. I don't want to go too much in details. We can have a separate actually discussion about that. So it's that's why I didn't mention it. I saw that in the heading here. So I think that's important to understand. So yes, we can run agile and have loops, but you need to set it up a little different way, my view at least, to make it work well.
Yeah.
And then, so perhaps I responded to. So I think we should go more in details to this area. I think this is a topic who is very good interest to look into.
Got it. Okay. So let's slide into number 4. Technology, once again. Number 4, lack of user involvement in delivering and testing the solution. Interesting one. Håkan.
This one is a little open doors for me. I think this is everyone, at least when I did my project manager training early 2000, it always already then could be culture. I'm talking for Nordic again, but then it was obvious that the business and users should be with the project and defining the needs, and also as they should use the solution, we're accepting the solution in different scales, because businesses normally, what I've seen, busy to do other things. They're not IT and providing IT. They should do their daily life too, but they are on top of these two parts. So I think this is something I see. I think my personal view, I think this is quite good in Nordic to manage and handle that, and we have a good approach and openness to do that. What I've seen in some cases, always some cases, is that when, and actually this is not, it's from my previous job here before I came into this XDI family, is that when IT solution is purchased by IT department, they get usually design what solution should be used, and you also own the delivery of it. In some of these cases, I have seen that business still coming in too late. They are involved, but they're not in active, and they get active too late, and then you get problem too late, and you have get problems to finalize the project. So there are still some fine tuning, but I think we are pretty well on this in Nordic, at least where I've been involved.
So I think what you're saying is that there's too much focus or too much responsibility put on IT for the delivering and testing as opposed to on other areas?
Now I didn't get your question, Brian.
So you mentioned that a lot of this was handled by the IT department, and that
Yeah.
there's especially I think what we normally think of when people go to implement software is, okay, we want to implement the software, so let's have IT implement it, let's have IT test it. Is that
Yeah.
the correct way to do this, or do you have a different solution for that?
Yeah, okay, good that you know I understand. So I was a little fluff in what I mean with testing. That's why you asked the question. So what I mean with involved business is when you do the acceptance testing, the final testing. When you develop it, you have IT developers, smaller groups normally who are doing the development and also testing, and then you share it normally with the people who have set the requirements. So this is final testing. That's what I'm talking when I say testing by business. They should accept this is something we can use, and now here we go, and then you rule it out. So good that you asked, Brian.
So the end ownership of the process really needs to be the business.
Yes, that's
exactly. Absolutely. Very good. Good. Thank you. Okay, let's move to number 3. Third in, governance. Low commitment from steering board members. I think that's going to bring us back into something I mentioned earlier. So, Håkan, low commitment from steering board members?
Yeah, and this, I think you mentioned that little too in the number 1 here. We're touching little setting up a strategy, have a value roadmap. Steering board members, there's normally some of them are in the early days stakeholders too. So I think this is connected what we talked about there. But I can share, you asking me about Nordic. I've been in many steering boards, my 5-10 last years, and I've seen this challenge. It's actually strange, but it's a huge investment by the client. It's actually on both sides, also on the vendor side, because there are a lot of ongoing programs for them to give the focus. And what I think you're looking for is giving the attention between to take the actions needed to prevent getting bigger problems. And this I have seen and still seeing that. And it's, to be honest, I don't have a good answer here how to manage that, more than involved in the early days and setting up our strategy, how to run and setting value roadmap. We already talked about that. But I think the complicator here is, and now I'm guessing, but I think it's room for that in this forum, is that the PLM still is not seen as important that more finance closed projects like ERP. I'm perhaps wrong, but that's a speculation I have. So that people then more prioritize their time and take decision on that before PLM. PLM is seen more as engineering, but perhaps I'm wrong. That's what I'm feeling a little. And I think this is a big.
I'm going to interrupt you quickly, Håkan.
Sorry.
So many conversations. I mean, I had that ERP background, and we would walk in with an ROI. It was clear we could prove it, so to speak, to the C-suite. I think Product Lifecycle has been pretty bad at that over the years. They've got too much in the weeds of engineering without recognizing what drives. Why are we in business? To make some money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, otherwise it's called a charity, isn't it, or a non-for-profit? So I think unless PLM can show to the C-suite the ROI, it's always going to be a struggle. I mean, you said earlier it's difficult, but all good things in life are. Hopefully, we've got closer to it. So you need that so that we can stand tall and really demonstrate the value to the business.
Well, it's that and the need for the ROI and the need for the decision makers and the steering board members to realize that PLM is much more of a vast thing today than it was, 10, 20 years ago. And when we say, let's put a new PLM system in, we're adding a whole lot more than just a way to kind of keep track of this product. Like we used to, right? So I think just the grasp and the idea of what you're really getting into is also a really big importance to what needs to happen to really get that strong commitment.
Awareness, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I think, senior managers have got to be senior managers because they're resilient. And, the more complex product lifecycle has got, because it's had to, because it's, taking the idea all the way through to the recycling from manufacturing, etc. You need someone at the helm who's resilient, because every PLM project, every project always has a problem. It's the ability to get through it, isn't it? And still get the job done. You need that resilience. You need that senior buy-in to drive it forward. Yeah.
There
we go. Okay. So number 2, I think we're into now. Number 2, governance. Second most common failure, project expertise with low seniority and little experience from similar projects.
And this is, I think, it's the one is it's quite easy to understand, but it's challenging actually, because if you look, and again I talk from Nordic, it's very hard to find expertise, senior for the projects. We are too few people locally who can manage that and have that skills. And we, of course, import from different countries and have tried to build up organization. But this is really challenging to find when you start a project, senior people who are available to deliver it. And I'm talking about now all levels here. If you start on the leadership, have people who understand and drive the bigger programs. And before actually problems happening, by experience, understand now we need to do this change. This is very hard to find. And I've been happy in the past to work with, I think personally at least, one of the best in this, best in class. But again, all people moving around. So I think this is important area. Second, I want to mention here, I have not to forget that, is I think the most important expertise knowledge you need on board, who we need seniority, is the global solution architect. I think you call it head architect, if I should have a more generic word on it, who leading the architecture, setting up the solution and leading the other technical staff. This guy is even harder to get. You need a person who have a good leadership, good communication, and understand very well the solution who should be there. So this person is so hard to get, and I think this is good. If you have a good person in that position, you have done, I should say you have done the project, but you have a good opportunity to go do a good project. So I think these people are also underestimated. As you know, I've been in different roles in the past, and they are seen more as a technical people. But I think this is the key people in the organization, the stars.
Yeah, so you're saying that you need to make sure that you have somebody who not only understands PLM, but also really understands the industry segment that this PLM is being implemented into, because just knowing how PLM works and what it can accomplish is not everything that you need there.
Yeah, you are spot on, Brian, and it's actually another component. So you need people who understand the solution, have expertise, knowledge, and experience, but you also need people who have the understanding of the business that should be implemented. That's another angle on it on top of that. And I think to make this happen, the solution to make this happen, focus to find a partner, someone, proven partner, have done this, not just have a slide deck showing that they have people that they really have the experience. That's super important, because there are a lot of people out there talking about people who are not, as I see it, at least not experienced enough for success. And also have as mandatory, I should have it, all of these people should be certified. It must be certified people who have proven that they know what they're doing here, because we're talking a big investment here. It's not just volumes. So that's too easy pick, and I should put a lot of attention to this before I start initiate the project, because this is key for the success, as we already say.
You're in a subject area very, very dear to my heart. I think there is a saying in the consulting and systems integration world, which I think is single throat to choke. And I think a lot of customers want to pass the responsibility for the delivery of a program to a large organization and just abdicate that responsibility to that large organization. I think it happens consistently because, if I'm a middle senior manager, it's just easy to tell my boss, I've given it to them, I'm safe now. And the problem with that, as we all know, is that is not problem solved. And I think from a senior manager's perspective, you cannot abdicate that responsibility. You can't just assume that they've got the global solution architect, that they've got the local capabilities to make sure that the cultures are lining up and people are listening from the business, from the IT, etc. It's critical that you dive into the team and meet, greet, interview the people that are coming into your project to make sure you are satisfied they've been there, seen it, done it, and can do it again, rather than getting bleary-eyed from a reference or a case study from a completely different team that delivered it somewhere else in the world. It's can you deliver me the team to do it for me right here, right now? And I think you need to interrogate it.
And actually here I can share that to the audience that this is what you and me worked a lot with in the past. You remember when I worked at Dassault time. So this is one of the key success factor we had for the project we delivered at that time, for sure. So I should put the extra effort. This is that's why it's number 2, I guess. It's very, very important.
Yeah, I didn't put it there.
Okay.
McKinsey's put it there.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Good. So that's number 2. Let's go to number 1, the biggest problem, nightmare, challenge with PLM adoption. No strategy for the global rollout plan in place. It's a big one. What do you think?
I think, and it's a very good number 1. I have to say that this is what I can see. It's a little sad actually to say that a well-performed project who are delivered, technically ruled out, but you don't have the adoption program in place. People don't understand the value. Why should I do this? And the change is needed. They are not committed. Just feel this is hard to use or whatever. Classic questions coming up. So this is actually then prevent to get the value as expected from the solution. Who is there? So this I think is so good. So this is for me number 1 for every day you ask me just now. And it's strange that it's still there because it's also topic is coming up in all projects I have been involved in, but still hard to make it working. And I think it's the reason for this is many times that it's not giving the attention in the project to set the strategy and make the adoption. I think also it's important to set it up early as possible, not when you do the deployment and ruling out the solution. It should be already in the beginning, and then also as a parallel project work against the design. You have a parallel then setting up the adoption. I mean the adoption also getting people change, understand why we do this and what's the value for them in the daily business. This is what I'm talking about here.
Would you say that the reason for not having a global rollout plan is that as many companies start with PLM, they don't realize they need to globally roll this out?
I think so too. Yeah, I think so, exactly. And it's underestimated. Of course, we should have a rollout plan, everyone have that. But we need to also have adoption plans to get the people, especially when you have different countries, different size. All PLM program is on different size, the different cultures then, and different drivers actually also. And it could be also that this different size coming from different companies in the past and they're merged. So you see all this complexity starting. Then you can't just rule out the solution and believe everything will be working fine. You have to do a lot of work here. And that's more or less for me, organization change management, or change, not change organization, wrong wording, change, making people aware why they need to change way of working. That's what I try to say.
And rolling this out isn't just getting the software available for people to use, but it's also making sure that the business understands why they're using this, how they're adopting this, and having a process so that you can implement and use, maybe start those in parallel, right?
Yes, totally agree, Brian.
So I think there's a couple of things there. One thing you mentioned on the previous point was there's not necessarily a lot of experienced skills in the Nordics for these implementations, but it's so critical that you do have a blend of local consultants with the language skills, with the cultural alignment. I mean, I think, something we've been looking at recently is as a series of plants in northern Finland. You can bet your bottom that they're probably not speaking English up there too frequently. And it's making sure that we've got those language skills locally to be able to really understand what it is that the business has got to go through to get to where you want them to be. I think you've got to have those local skills on board, even though they're not there today necessarily. We've got to find them and train them.
And you're touching exactly the Nordic is many times put as a area region, but it's actually 4. If you take away the Baltic and Iceland, then you have Norway, Finland, Sweden, and Denmark. It's 4 areas, 4 different cultures, 4 different currencies, and it's quite huge. As I think we had talked about, if you take Sweden, turn it around, it goes down to Africa. If you understand it, but it's huge. So you fly to the customer, you don't take the car. We are not so many people, but a huge area. And the different type of styles internally in Sweden, even if you're South Sweden, they love to talk more and more challenging. In North, they're more quiet. In Finland, as you probably know already, Finland have their business styles. It's quite interesting environment. I don't want to say challenge. It's more they have many different angles on it in the different countries.
Sorry, we got a comment in from the audience here from Puneet Sharma. Hi, Puneet. Pleasure to have you on the show, and thanks for your comments. Puneet says there is also a mindset difference between new adopters and old large companies with their working culture. Do you see a strategic difference in those cases?
And then, new adopters, should I read it like new starters? Or
probably, not always, but probably, yeah.
Then it's a big difference, exactly, because then you don't have any legacy. It's much, I shouldn't say easier, but you don't have any. It's hardest when you have something. That's why I mentioned emerging companies. Then normally are 2 legacies, you move to 1, and if you're rolling out the PLM solution, it gets quite much challenges to handle all this. If you have a new starter, it's empty house, and you can build up a new latest functionality, latest way of working. So I see that approach is, I shouldn't say easier, but it's more straightforward. Large companies with lot of legacy. We have, as you know, in Nordic here. I've tried to pick in the Nordic as this is a theme for today. We have a lot of bigger companies, as you probably know, market leaders in high tech or car industry, and I can go on and go on. And these guys, they have already several systems in place, and then it's of course much harder to get the change if you want to replace existing systems with a new system, or if you want the PLM solution to live together with other. One side you have one way to work on another. I don't believe that is normal, but that's good.
And I think it's also easier with the new adopters to take a kind of a cloud first approach as well.
Yes, true.
You don't have to get into customization because of legacy processes as well. So it can get them up and running quicker, faster, cheaper, etc. as well. So it is definitely a strategic difference in your approach.
Yeah, good point, Andrew. I agree totally.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Puneet. Appreciate it. I think we're there. We did the top 7. It's a pretty good top 7. I think we can definitely next time around delve in even deeper to some of those PLM challenges specifically, which are dear to many of our hearts as well. So
I think that we've themed this as talking about the Nordic challenges, but really anybody watching would agree who's in the PLM world that these are challenges that are for any implementation, right?
Yeah.
And it really feels like we're at the point where the challenge really isn't the technology anymore, but it's really more with getting everybody on board with using the technology and seeing the benefits of all of this. Because those who've been around during some of the first PM type of installations know that just getting the stuff to work was the challenge. But now it's more not getting it to work. I mean, that is sometimes still a challenge, but not as much of a challenge as getting people to work with it.
Yeah, I agree too. Good observation, Brian. Actually, all the bullets we had is more on the soft area, more or less. The one was on our own technology. So very good observation. I agree on that.
Great. Good. Håkan, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking time out of a ever increasingly busy Nordic schedule. Look forward to catching up with you face to face, hopefully very soon. Good luck to all of us in the Nordics, and hope to see you over there. Perhaps in Gothenburg, in Göteborg, at the MBSE symposium. I know you're going to.
I will be there. I booked us. I will be there. And I have to also say thanks letting me be with you guys. I want to come back in the future, hopefully, some sessions. I'm looking forward if I can do that.
We appreciate you
one more
taking a little bit
question
of time out of your nice and sunny day just to talk with us.
Håkan, we got one more point coming from Puneet. I don't know if you want to pick it up. It's one more point. I had is the view of system versus platform. Many customers are also not able to picture that in their enterprise. Interesting. Any thoughts on that? So more of a platform approach where you're actually bringing in, integrating all of these various systems. It could be from a pure PLM perspective, but it could be from an enterprise perspective as well to aid in collaboration. Any thoughts on that?
I can, first of all, I think in at least all the bigger vendors, they have a platform where they put the application on. So you have to minimize, you don't want to have a lot of integration, avoiding integration. So you have a platform where you share the information. I mean, could be CAD data, PLM, PDM, all this type of data is shared in the same platform. So I think, personally, I think it's the way forward instead of having different systems, application, who we integrate. If I read now the comments right here, you have to call. So this is my first reflection. But by that said, I think also, and that's I had little as a comment in the beginning, and I don't know if people got it, is that it's important to have a flexible architecture. So what I mean is, a platform should be not a solid big one, which you can't. It should be very flexible. You can update separate the application on it. So that's how you get the fast updates and a cheaper ownership of the application on the platform. If you get my point.
To me, it comes down to
elaborating here, but that's how I think.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, to me, it comes down to digital continuity. If you are motivated by a digital thread, digital continuity, and linking everything up, then clearly a platform approach is the right way to go. I think if you've got organizations that are still running silos and they see that as a good thing because someone's got responsibility, then they're going to take responsibility and operate as a silo very easily. So it's how you blend everybody together across the departments. Platforms are a really good platform to start with anyways.
What I think I have, you are right, Andrew, but I think what is key here also to understand, if you have too many integration is always a risk. I know we have standard integration and connectors and so on and so on. But when you update one solution developed by one company, another solution, another company, can bet you get problems in future, or at least you have to do some hands-on. This is why I say minimize that and try to. You need different solutions. You can't have one vendor for everything. That's naive to say, but don't try to create too much. That's how I read it. One system for each area. I shouldn't recommend that. And now we're talking for medium and larger companies, smaller company, of course.
Yeah, one step at a time, I think, is what you're saying. Yeah, good. Håkan, thanks again. Been a pleasure.
Take care and see you. Bye.
You too. Thanks. So basically, bottom line, Brian, I think it's get the C-suite buy-in, showing them some numbers, make sure it makes sense, make sure you've got a good quality of team, and make sure that that business is 100% bought in and adopted, and all strategies around that. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's to understand what you're getting into and probably to understand why you're getting into it. These buzzwords we hear all the time. Everybody hears like, yeah, that's another PLM buzzword, right? But it's there for a reason, and besides just being a buzzword. And the idea of really knowing why you're going to get into this, why do you want to implement this solution, how is it going to benefit your business, and then make sure that both the C-suite, the end users, everybody in that chain understand, because if you get that buy-in, you're going to have the success and you're going to see the actual benefits for doing all of this. Otherwise, what's the point?
Sounds good. So everyone, next week, we think we're either going MBSC or manufacturing.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week ahead, and it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from him.